All right, here's a quick rundown on some long division. When we talk about long division, we're talking about a double-digit divisor, as well as 3 to 4 and even more dividends. So the first thing we need to know, and a key to helping us, is the pattern daddy, mother, sister, brother. What this means is divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. If we can do all those steps and then repeat, we'll be able to solve any division problem. It may take a little bit. In some of these problems, it gets pretty long, but if you stick with this, you'll be able to do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide. And to divide, I'm going to start with the first number, which is 81, and I want to see how many times it'll go into 63. Now, obviously, 81 is a lot bigger than 63. So I'm going to move on down to the next one and do 639. Now here's the trick for this. Since I'm going into 639, I'm going to ignore the rest of the problem. That makes it seem a little more bearable. And to come up with a good estimate to start with, I'm going to actually ignore the second number on this and the second number on this, and I'm going to see how many times 8 goes into 63. It makes it a lot easier to kind of simplify. And remember, this is just for the estimate. If I look at these, I can see that 8 times 8 is 64. That's very close to 63. So the estimate is going to be some multiplication fact that I can tell is already pretty close. So I'm actually going to start with 8. Then I'm going to plug that in to my original problem. So I'm going to do 81 times 8. I'm going to see if that fits in. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. I have 648. Now the problem with this is 648 is bigger than 639. So it's not going to work, and I'm going to have to change my estimate. Just take it back one step. So I know times 7 would be the best. So 81 times 7 is going to be 7 times 1. And 7 times 8 is 56. Again, I look at these, and now this is smaller than this, so we know it's going to work. So I'm going to go 81 into 639 7 times. That first step's kind of a bugger. Now I'm going to take 567, and it's time for mother. Or sorry, 81 times 7 is the mother, because we multiplied. Now it's time for sister, subtract. And we're going to subtract 639 from 567. 9 minus 7 is 2. 3 minus 6 I can't do, so I'm going to borrow. That's going to give me 7 and a 0 here. I'm just not going to draw that. So now I have 72 left over. Okay? So I divided, 86 goes into 639, multiplied, 81 times 7 is 567, subtracted, I got 72, and now it's time to bring down. If there's anything left, we're going to drop it down. We've got a 9 there, so we're going to bring the 9 down, and we're going to have 729. Okay? We need to do the same steps that we did before up here. Again, the easiest step, or easiest part of this, is to ignore the last number on each to come up with an estimate. So I'm going to ignore the 1, and I'm going to ignore the 9. And I'm going to say 8 goes into 72 how many times? 8 goes into 72 9 times. 8 times 9 is 72. So I'm going to use that as my estimate. Now remember, that was just an estimate, so now I have to see if it works. So we divided, 8 goes into 72. Now we're going to test it. We're going to do 8 times 9, or 81 times 9. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 8 is 72. And we get 729. See how that estimate brought us right to the answer. So now we divided. 81 goes into 729 9 times. Multiply 729. We're going to make sure and write down our answer here because we just tested and we said it goes in 9 times. And is there anything left to bring down? No. So we're just going to take that, and that's our answer, 79. If we were, we could subtract 729, but we know if we subtract it from itself, we're going to get 0. So hopefully this was a good example. Now that we've done our steps, we can move a little bit quicker. So first, we're going to start out with divide. I'm going to divide 87 into 33, and obviously it won't go, so I have to move down to 339. So at this point, I'm going to ignore the last number, just so I don't make this harder than it is. 87 goes into 339. And to come up with an estimate, I'm going to ignore the first number, the last number of each. And I'm going to say, how many times does 8 go into 33? And I could say 8 goes into 33, 8 times 4 is 32. So that would be perfect to estimate and go into it 4 times. So we're going to do 8 times 4. Now we need to test to see if this works. So 87 times 4. And we're hoping that that number is just a little bit smaller. Sorry, that doesn't look like a multiply. A little bit smaller than 339. So 87 times 4. 7 times 4 is 28. 8 times 4 is 32 plus 2, 33, 34. Oh man, so close, 348. Just like 10 above. So we know if we punch in times 3, we're going to be right there. So we have to change our estimate to 3. 7 times 3 is 21. 8 times 3 is 24, 25, 26. This doesn't look as close, but at least it's smaller, so we know it'll fit in. So we're going to say 87 goes into 339 3 times. That's divide. Multiply, 87 times 3 is 261. And now it's time to subtract. I'm going to clear this area up so I don't worry about it anymore. We're going to subtract. 9 minus 1 is 8. 3 minus 6 can't do. We're going to borrow. 13 minus 6 is 7. And we have 78. It's a really big number, but at least it's smaller than 87, which means we're doing it right. So now we're going to see if 87 goes into 78, which it won't. So we're going to do brother, which is bring down. To do that, we've got to look at our next problem, which is a 3, and drop our 3 straight down, and we're going to have 783. Once again, I always like to estimate because it'll get me a lot closer to the problem I'm looking for. So to estimate, I'm going to ignore the last number here and the last number here, and I'm going to say how many times can 8 go into 78? 8 times 8 is 64. I think we could go one more time, 9, which is 72. And that looks like that would be perfect. So we're going to estimate 9. Okay, so 87 times 9 should be close to 783. 9 times 7 is 63. 8 times 9 is 72. Plus 6, 73, 74, 75, 78. And awesome! Look what we've got, a perfect match. So we're going to put our 9 over here. And if we want to go, we can subtract it, but we know if we subtract 783, we're just going to get the same thing. So we know our answer is 39. Alright, luckily this is a little shorter one, so let's go through it pretty quick. First we're going to divide. We're going to see if we can go 23 into 80. Hey, since this one we actually can fit it in, we're going to use that number. We can even just estimate for a minute and pretend that's 20 going into 80. But just remember that it's over 20. So 20, 40, 60, 80, it would go in 4 times. But again, I said it's too big, so we know it's not going to work. So that's 4 times would be 80, but let's pull it back 1 because we know it's going to go over because of the 3. So 23 times 3. And at this time, I'm also going to ignore my last number just so it doesn't seem a little overwhelming at first. So I've got 23 goes into 80, 20 goes into it 4 times, and we're going to pull it back 1, and it'll be 23 times 3. So 23 times 3 should get us close. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 2 is 6. And that looks like a great number. So that was our divide. Now we're going to multiply 23. Write our answer in 3. 23 times 3 is 69. Now we're going to subtract. Let me erase this area so it's out of the way. Subtract. 0 minus 9 you can't do. We're going to have to borrow. 7, and we've got our 10, which is going to leave us with 1. 1. So 11. 11 is smaller than 23, so we know we did it right. Now we have to bring down. Yep. Let's move the right thing. There we go. We're going to bring down the 5, and we have 115. Okay, 115. Now we're going to repeat. We're going to do it all over again. Now we're going to see if 23 will go into 11. No. How about 115? And you could do the same way we did before, where we estimate by erasing one of the numbers at the back of each. So 11 and 2. And you say, how many times does 2 go into 11? 5 times. So we can do 5. Or if you want, you can just count again by 20s and do 20, 40, 60, 80, and then just realize that the 23 is bigger. So if we did 5 times, we'd have 100 and, let's see, no, we'd have 100. So I think 5 is a pretty good guess. Let's just do it. So 23 times 5. Three times 5 is 15. Ooh, this is looking good so far. Those two 5s match. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. And we hit it right on the head with the 5, so let's write our 5 up here. Again, we know if we put 115 down here, it's not going to make a difference. We're going to subtract, no remainder, and our answer is 35. We're starting to see the pattern of daddy, mother, sister, brother, and how step by step we can keep doing this. So let's do another one. This one's a bigger one again. We're going to start out with 76 goes into 4,712. Our first thing we're going to do is ignore that back number. Sometimes it's just a lot easier to focus on the first part so it doesn't seem like such a large problem. And we have 76 goes into 471. To come up with an estimate, I like to erase the back number of each and say how many times does 7 go into 47. 7 times 6 is 42. 7 times 7 is 49, which is too big. So I'm going to go with 6 as my estimate. So 76 times 6. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 6 is 42, 43, 44, 45. Ooh, that's a good estimate. It's smaller than this number, so we can plug it in. So we're going to say it goes in 6 times. Multiply 76 times 6 is 456, which we've already done over here. Now we're going to subtract. I'll clean up this area. And we're going to subtract. We can't do that, so we're going to borrow. 11 minus 6 is 5. 6 minus 5 is 1. And 4 minus 4 is 0. So we have 15. Cool. Now we're going to look at the last number, and we're going to bring it down, which is going to be 2. 152. Again, I like to ignore the last number to come up with my estimate. It just makes it so much easier. So I'm going to ignore the 2, and I'm going to ignore the 6 and say how many times can 7 go into 15? 7 can go into 15 twice, which would be 14, which is really close. So I'm going to go with 2. So 7 goes into, or 76 times 2, we're hoping gets close to 156. 2 times 6 is 12. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15. And again, we hit it right on the head. That's why that estimating is so important. It saves us so much time. And we're going to plug it in, the 2 that we just did. So the answer is 62. We can subtract, but again, we already know it's going to be 0 because it's exactly what we need. So we've got our answer, which is 62. Hope this helps. Hopefully by now you've kind of got the main idea. If you want to go back and check, that's great. Good luck on the battlefield.